So this is the seventh in the series here about astrology for skeptics. I'm not going to quibble with the people who just say, well, I got the fortune cookie and it didn't come true. You read your horoscope and it could be anybody's horoscope. That's not the point of astrology. If you want to argue with that astrology, I think it's silly too. The kind of astrology I'm talking about has to do with the cycles of nature and the patterns that are made in everything, all the spheres, all the solar systems, all the galaxies. They have patterns. This is a pattern. They're finding it in the atoms. There's a pattern in the atoms. There's a pattern in living. There's a pattern in rhythmic cycles that go on. Now, I had this demonstration regarding a point here which I marked as an X. If you realize that at this point here, a lot of additional heat, cosmic energy from the sun, rays of intense energy are starting to heat up this place. That changes the polarity and magnetism. It sets up a frequency. Because of a vast periods of time, after a while the frequency of the Earth, for example, has some rhythms to it. It becomes relatively stable over long periods of time. But on the microcosm, we get affected by all kinds of stuff. People get affected by cell phone, vibrations, right? By all kinds of stuff affect us. We don't realize it. Just because we don't realize it doesn't mean it's not there. I try to remind people, our eyes have a very narrow frequency range. And we know from the scientists that there's many kinds of creatures that can see in infrared. They may not see color like we see it. They might see it like an infrared camera, like a greenish, or they see things differently, literally, and they hear things differently. But all the time in the Earth, you might say there's crackling sounds and sounds and light frequencies and vibrations that we are just not quite set up to individually recognize, but we synchronize with them through our whole body cycles, and light affects the cells and hormones, and that's how the whole physical system works. So when someone says, okay, you're born at sunrise, okay, everything happening at sunrise has extra energy added. Obviously, if you were there on the birth of someone at sunrise, it's a very different thing than being born at midnight. It's a very different kind of energy. Being born at midnight is just so different. Being outside and being born outside is different than being born under fluorescent lights. There's an interposition of various vibrations, some of them healthy and not healthy. Now, when it comes to being born, at the same time here, because the Earth is tilted and it's round in the angle of the sun, it might be the same exact universal time based on Greenwich Mean Time, but it may be actually in the darker portion there because of the way the light is falling, that the angle of the shadow on the Earth is such that a place here on the equator is in the daytime and sunrise, but a place over here, maybe to the north, is not yet in the sun. Sunrise hasn't happened then, even though it may be physically the exact same time. The actual sunrise over here, to say someone is born at sunrise in the north, you have to wait till a little bit later because of the way the whole thing's structured. So if you're born, it's a rhythm. See, everything is a cycle. So try to understand that. Let's say have you ever played that game with a rolling bicycle tire or something, or a circle or something, and you give it a little push and it rolls and rolls. The gyroscope of action keeps it rolling, something keeps happening. Now, nature is growing before our eyes. You walk out and you see plants grow in a few days' time. You come back and you say, wow, my plants grew like 6 inches in 3 days. But if you're standing there next to the plant, you're not going to see it. The energy of the sun at sunrise and other things involved are extremely powerful. Now, what else affects it? I'll have to go into some of the other planets and so on, because again, it's not just a big body. It's not just a planet Saturn sitting out there and it has a lot of moons and that's all there is some big ball of rock out there, and how could it possibly affect us? No, Saturn is a massive energy generator. Saturn has been around for billions of years. Saturn has all kinds of power. And it's not that far from us. If Saturn was taken out of the system of our solar system, it would be very, very different on this planet. The whole orbit would change. The position of Saturn, the fact that Jupiter is there. Jupiter attracts some of the heavier comets and things that are going through. There's a few years ago, there was like a massive comet hit Jupiter. I forgot what year it was. Massive. It totally shocked everybody. Because Jupiter attracts that stray elements, and Jupiter is basically digesting some of the garbage that comes through the solar system. It is a protector. It's always been called the protector of the solar system, the God, the beneficent, the one that has mercy. Because if it wasn't for that presence, literally there would be things in our solar system that would be flying around and possibly hitting us. So it does matter. Now, there are a lot of variables in a person's chart. When you're born, the position of the Earth this year at 19 degrees Aries, what you see in the distance, let's say the sun is in so-called Aries. You can't see Aries during that time because you look toward the sun and you're not going to see the stars. Okay, so let's say the sun is, quote, in Aries on a certain day, and that's like, let's say 20 degrees Aries. Now next year at 20 degree Aries, the sun will be there, but the sun has moved and the earth has also moved. So tomorrow, next year's birth, 20 degrees Aries, is not the same as this year's birth at 20 degrees Aries. But there is some other kind of geometric relationship and time situation, because if the sun is in 20 degrees Aries and the moon is also there in a position directly in line with the sun, and Mercury is very close to the sun, which it always is, but if it's even especially closer, and if Venus is also closer, then you have a sun, Venus, moon, Mercury conjunction in Aries. At sunrise, don't you think there's a lot of power? Because Venus is also very powerful. Venus has a tremendous amount of energy. Venus's light actually is reflected from the sun. Venus has its own energy, apparently. From all we've seen, it's very hot. Mercury is intense. Mercury is like a metal, a solid metal, apparently. And it's just, I guess it's iron or something. I think Mercury's made of iron. Now, those things, those big, massive generators and source of energy on their own, right in front of the sun or in line with the sun, on some cosmic level that we can't understand, there's gravity waves, there's flux. The positions of these massive bodies do have flux within our solar system because they're so huge in relation to whatever else is there. Like Saturn. And Neptune's huge. So, I'm trying to get a picture here of the many cosmic variables that are going on that we just take for granted. We just assume, we just walk around like nothing's happening, but every minute light is affecting us. Light is, without light and sound and all these things that are going on because of all this drama and all this incredible energy that we're living in, a web, we're living in it. Because of it, we're just being knit together. Literally, we're being knit together, but we don't, it's so big, we just can't grasp it. We can't figure it out with our brain, but we know we're working here. Tomorrow we're going to be healed. And I mean, it's just amazing. So I find it incredibly fascinating. I'm going to go on with this series. I've gotten some good feedback. There's people out there I know, they're going to say, oh, I hate astrology, oh, pseudoscience, and they're going to make funny names and call me names and whatever. But, those kind of people, they can go watch something else. And, thanks again for watching.